And when you use this, you should have the drill going in the direction opposite that of the wood being turned. And if the bowl were mounted like so, with the opening here on the end, I would have the bowl spinning in a clockwise direction viewed from here, and then I would have this going counterclockwise, but I would use the edge of the good, thank you. You're good, thank you. Okay, how do I put this into reverse?
Push the switch down.
Down. Okay. Okay. So a slow speed again, and this is very easy to control when I'm using the left side here, like so. Should I use the other side, this would be bouncing all over the place. So I generally go from inside to outside like so. And the same for doing the inside. I will continue to have this in the counterclockwise direction. So it goes easily like that. And this and the discs here, this is not Velcro. What's
Hook and loop.
hook and loop? Yes. So this happens to be an 80 grit. There is 120 grit, like so, and some finer ones as well. And for the various pieces of sandpaper, this is 120. I will fold it in thirds and then do the same thing here. Again, going backwards. And for the actual wood preparation prior to sanding, I will generally use the pull cut using a long beveled chisel, and I will set the tool rest like so, and then hold the tool, and I didn't bring it in, but I then hold the tool here, and I can remove a very, very fine pieces of wood comparable to what Kenny was using, and I get a nice finish. And in the last few years, the amount of time which I spend sanding has decreased by probably 80%. When I was turning 15 to 20 years ago, I would spend 3 hours sanding something, and now it's often only 2 or 3 or 4 minutes.
Wow.
So sanding is really kind of boring, but very, very boring indeed. And some of the professional wood turners do virtually no sanding, which is the way it should be, I think.
Now, what tool were you using on the final?
that you say you're getting a smooth, where you're set up now to do, but you didn't bring the tool in, which?
Okay, that's a gouge with the long cut.
Fingernail grind,
Fingernail grind, yes.
bowl gouge,
Oh,
Okay.
tipping it over,
Yes.
using it like a scraper.
yes, right.
Yeah.
So that is held, so the handle is down here, and I'm using the, I'm actually not riding the bevel for this cut, and I use only the mid portion of the side of the bevel, and it took a while to master it. With the upper hand, I am holding the bottom side of the gouge and pushing it against the tool rest. Then I'm kind of moving my body back this way, kind of dancing with the tool,
Yeah.
and I, for a large bowl, have to turn it off and reset the tool rest on one or two occasions. But it can do a very, very nice job, a great job.
Do you have trouble sometimes burning the tip by using it that way?
No, because I'm not using the tip.
Or I mean burning the edge?
Not really.
No, okay.
No. And it's a very, very fine angel hair type of chips, which I'm taking off. So. Okay.
Good.
Good, thanks.
All right, good evening. For me, I get to that last grit and, a couple of things probably just piggyback on Wayne. And, for me, I think the area of most improvement for me this past year is probably not my turning, but, my finishing process. I think this year, the pieces that I have turned, I've been as happy as I've ever been, and mainly because of two things. One thing Wayne said, process, discipline, and patience. So, I have ruined more pieces, I think, in my excitement to want to get things done and finished and dried and be able to look at it the next morning, only to, open up or turn the light on in the breezeway and look out and then pick it up and say, I go fix that again. So my personal standard of where I stop sanding and start finishing, I think, has changed this year quite a bit, for me. So, and the biggest question I always ask myself now is, if I look at something or, a nick or a scratch or anything that looks pretty good, and if it catches my eye, I don't say it's going to be okay anymore to the next step. If it catches my eye, I see it, I have the lathe turning, I have my hand over and I can feel it, I got to go back and fix it, and if I can do it with a tool, so be it. I very rarely go back after I've gotten to the point where I start sanding, to put a tool back in the wood, only because for me, I end up going backwards, in that process. So, for me, I probably spend an hour or so sanding most. I'm turning vessels right now. I got a piece of maple in the lathe that's just about warped, a piece of side grade wood that changed shape so much that I can't even sand it with the lathe on. So it was all hand sanding. It took me about an hour to get through all that side grain. But once you get it down to where things are even and you can begin to work through the grits, then that's where my patience and my discipline has really, I think, improved what I do in my approach to do that. So I go right up to 400, and I've been sanding now to through 400. I think ever since last couple of years now for me. I don't sand any more than 400. I never even purchase sandpaper. I think higher than that, to do that. But for me, that last piece, I spend a lot of time after I get done, and I think I'm going to put some finish on there. I run my hand over it. I don't necessarily look at it. I just kind of spin it, rub my hand, feel, trouble spots for me down here at the bottom, the foot, or if I'm turning a vessel, right up at that neck sometimes here to do that. So, if there's any discoloration in the wood, or a nick or something there, then I go back and I make sure that I am absolutely as happy as I can be until, you know, I come back the next day after I put that first coat of finish. So, you know, for me, most of the time I take my t-shirt, you know, rub it, I'm already dirty, I, you know, put it up on the lathe, I wipe my piece off there, you know, I take a piece of paper towel there, you know, I used to use the tack cloth, but I got tired of spending the money to do that. My shop's so dusty anyways, you know, I only make it back in the big, you know, plastic bag half the time to do that. But whatever I choose to do to clean that wood completely off before I put my first coat of finish on there, you know, whatever is available. I buy a blue roll, shop towels from Ham Shop, you know, they come two in a bundle, they're cheap, you know, tear them in half, make sure they're clean. I take my air hose, you know, some hard lessons I've learned from, you know, using the air hose around the wood. If you get some water in your line, you know, I learn to hit my hose on away from my piece of wood before I go to, you know, clean that off. And then, you know, like Wayne said, I have a light right over my lathe, you know, I put it right down there, and then, you know, I'm just running my hand over and I'm looking. I like to, you know, real close because very rarely do I get to the point where I put a coat of finish on and then the next morning I let my first coat of finish dry for about 24 hours. You know, I use Formbees right from Ham Shop to do that. Very rarely do I put that first coat of finish on and then go back to it, look and say, yep, I can just sand that a little bit, you know, just to take the roughness off and put another coat on. Most often for me, I put that first coat of finish on and there's something that I didn't see before I put that first coat on, as far as, you know, a little piece of grain that's torn like that. Often now, I sand that first coat of finish right off and then go back down again, you know, stick at 400, but I take it right down so it's real smooth again. And then in between every coat again, you know, I make sure that there's nothing that I look at and say, that's going to be okay. Because for me, my experience has been, it's most often not okay anymore. So, you know, I think as much as my process for sanding, you know, has changed, my standard of what I think is going to go on to the next point, so I can at least be happy with it, you know, to do that. And for, you know, somebody else who's not a wood turner or a woodworker might look at it and say, that's great, and then while everybody is touching and looking at it, I say, damn it, I wish I would have fixed that, you know, to do that. So for me, you know, just again, my patience and my discipline is, I think, is important of a change and improvement in process than, you know, as much. Anybody can put a piece of sandpaper to a piece of wood, you know, to do that. But I think wherever your own level of standard, you know, comes into play and what you're happy with, then that, I think, will change your process a little bit and, you know, the time you put in to fix something before you go on to the next piece, you know, to do that. So. And I only use steel wool in between wax, after waxing too, so.
So can I say one additional thing? For most of the bowls that I do, I will turn a tenon with a small foot so that when this is mounted in the chuck, there is a very, very small space, usually about 1/8 of an inch, between the outer convexity of the bowl and the foot. So to sand that, I just take a little piece of wood which is less than 1/8 of an inch thick, and I will then hold that here so that the edge of it will be sanding the side of the foot, and that this portion here will be sanding the base of the convexity, and it really works very, very nicely. And I will, when it's necessary, I will use a coarser sandpaper, and I will usually, well, this is a 220, and I have 400 as well. So I just fold that here, and it takes probably 10 seconds to be doing the edge of the tenon and the base of the convexity.
Okay, well, thank you very much for our presenters here this evening. Let's give them a good